Hello, hello, hello. Testing, testing, testing. Okay, it seems to be working now. I'm gonna put some music on. Usually, I've been trying to kind of keep it so that like the intro for YouTube is shorter, but something screwed up and everything went pretty crazy. So I'm gonna do one more song while I get some G Fuel and we'll get started. All right? Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I was trying to fix something and then everything broke. So shut up, Mr. Tittles. I honestly was having technical issues. I was on time and then everything broke. So that, you know, treats me for being on time. Be right back, guys. I will never be on time again now. Thanks to Mr. Tittles. Blame him! Welcome back, everybody. This was actually Utho Riley, by the way. That's who's doing this. Everyone's like, oh, this is Pedro. This is some sort of epic stuff. It's like, nah, it's Utho, guys. Utho, who needs more money and deserves to be writing scores for movies. Utho is amazing. All right. So I thought I was being clever, and I wasn't. But I thought. That's the key. I thought I was. All right, let's get to the office, shall we? Quit these things out. Welcome to Office Hours, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do one quick test while we're here. Everything decided to break today, so you got that going for me, which is nice. Let's try this. Nope, still nothing. That's all right. Welcome, everybody. Gotta love Utho. Does the music play out? God, I love it though. Welcome to Office Hours, ladies and gentlemen. So Office Hours is a stream where I play too loud music, where we talk about the game. Mostly, it's the original concept of it was to talk about lore with Star Citizen, and it's kind of turned into kind of a more chill captain's table with lore as part of it. Kind of cover everything. In fact, I should probably just take my Office Hours logo and just put it back here, just put it like that. But that's the reason why I have the Captain's Table logo and I have the Galactic Historian logo, because it's designed to be kind of a little bit of both. This one better. Thank you so much, CH, for that 37 months, and K-Freeman for that 3 months, shortest 3 months ever. Macman, thank you so much for that subscription for 4 months. Harm CEO for that 47 months. You guys are absolute bonkers. Thank you for that, guys. Thank you. All right. You get great distraction while writing at desk this afternoon. Thank you for saving this Friday afternoon work. No problem, Jet. No problem. Any info on Xmas sale discount packages? None yet, but they usually do about $5 discount packages. So I'd expect something around $40 towards the end of the year. Let's see. What else I got? Yo, I love your neon sign. Thank you, Hoozy the God? Hoozy? I like the name. Hoozy. So yeah, I decided I was going to be smart and get Restream to work properly, so I could do the Restream chat and not have to do the Restream application. But Restream's just like, no, you use me now. So welcome, use boobs, use tubes. So this is a lore question. I know the verse has its very own Halloween. Is there also a verse version of Christmas? Not that we know of. My guess is that it's Day of the Traveler. It's the one they haven't talked about. So Traveler's Day is an important day because it's Traveler is the religion ish of the Star Citizen universe of humans. All of the other religions still exist: Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam, paganism, neo-paganism. All of the religions that we have today still exist in the Star Citizen universe. Though the largest religion is not really a religion; it's more of like a philosophy that pervades most of human space. Is called the Traveler, or the Church of the Traveler. And it focuses on exploration. It's a celebration of movement and of pushing boundaries. So Traveler's Day is a day where you it's kind of like where you go visit your families and everything like that. You see where you've been and where you're going. Sort of like a reflection on the year. That's the closest thing that Star Citizen has to like a Christmas holiday, I assume. So how many dollars of regret did you forfeit this IAE? 0 actually. I actually got a Perseus through an upgrade line. We just credit. Man, that's a lot of money. Creepy tier and health mask challenge. I mean, to be fair, I think the best thing that CIG could do for Traveler's Day would be to give people something like some sort of like reward for visiting a specific location in the verse. You know, I'd love to see something like a traveler's temple or like a traveler's commune somewhere in the verse, somewhere in Stainton, where people would go. You could go on Traveler's Day and you'd go talk with somebody, and they'd be like, "Here you go," and you get like a little trinket for going there. I wouldn't doubt that, like if because they haven't really fleshed out Traveler, the Church of the Traveler. I'll look it up in Star Citizen Wiki real quickly to refresh. Church of the Journey. I'm sorry, Church of the Journey. It's a quote-unquote secular philosophy celebrating experiences gained over destination. It was founded in the 29th century by Vita Perry. The Church of the Journey claims to not be a religion and is not exclusionistic towards double members of other religions or faith groups. Traveler's Day. It's holiday. Sundown, the first orbit of New Year basically. Due to the variety of orbital periods, it's different for every planet and not a single standardized day. It's a metaphorical celebration of the beginning of a new journey. The devout usually meet at a church or a gathering place and go on a symbolic pilgrimage through the night to a new destination. See, that would be cool. That would be cool as fuck. To go on New Year's Day to or like have separate times for travelers, and you can go meet a group of NPCs and go walk with the NPCs to a shrine, and then get a little doodad. And I mean, Traveler's Day is one of those things where it could totally be exploited by capitalism. Are you kidding me? The Church of the Traveler sounds better, yeah. There might be some copyright issues, because that might actually be a thing. So get a vacation home on multiple planets so you can celebrate it in multiple times, exactly. Got tired of waiting for 3080 while everything's out of stock and freaked out and bought the first 30K you could find. Well, what is it? Or 3K you could find. What was the first 3K you could find, Justin? Oh, I see up higher. An RTX 3070. That's not bad. That's not bad. I have 2070 Super, and it's okay. It's fine. I think the 3070 is probably just better because I think the 3070 is basically a 1080, so or the 2080. Shelly, hoy, 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 hoy. 2080 Ti, that's fine, yeah. So, real question: what ship would Space Santa use? Hull D. You know you would use a Hull D, or he'd use a Hull A, and he'd just keep pulling toys out of nothing. Good choose. The choo-choo. Thank you for that hype train, by the way. A magical Hull A, yeah. I do like the idea that CIG kind of makes its own religions and its own days. Like something like Santa Claus probably wouldn't be as practiced in the 30th century, but you'd probably have something similar. Close some stuff here so I don't deal with as much. Max, thanks Pub for good content every week since 2 years watching you. Love and peace. 24 months, my man. Thank you so much for that subscription. You are very important, Pub. Very impressive pisser. You rock. I wonder if the Reclaimer will be able to mine the space debris of Hurston's moons. Maybe. Santa equals Kraken. Show us your war face? No. Why would you want to see my war face? This is my battle attire, though. This and aviator sunglasses. And CCR blasting. What are Star Citizen's Chairman's Club levels? I don't know. I think it's just like different thing, like how much money it's how much money you've spent in the game that you get certain things. Like Legatus is the highest. Jerry the Banu Santa Claus. Oh God. Question: which ship excites you most, flyable or otherwise? Excites me the most? I mean, I think the Kraken excites me the most, not because I really want to fly it, but because it offers such an interesting concept. I mean, it's very Drake. It's a ship that is designed to both be a forward operating base militarily, but it could also be a forward operating base for refineries or for mining. Like, for instance, when and if, well, it's more of a when we get the ship, the refining ship for the game, you could easily put a refining ship, especially if it's the size I think it is, a refining ship on a Kraken, and then send out moles or prospectors out to go mine and collect stuff, and then come back, dump it into the prospector, or dump it into the refining ship that refines all the ore, and then you remove it from the refining ship into the cargo hold of the Kraken. So you had this floating refinery, essentially, like mining operation. Essentially a more versatile Orion. What's Legatus? Legatus is the highest package you can get. It's the highest amount of, or not the highest, like little reward tiers that you can get for backing Star Citizen. It's like ungodly high. It's like, I can't even think. I remember it's like $27,000 or something like that in the game. Stupid levels. 25K. Thank you. Is it 35K now? I know they've increased. They may have increased it. What about the Endeavor? If you want a possible multi-role ship. The Endeavor is a great ship, but it's endgame. The Endeavor is one of those ships that's definitely going to be an end game kind of thing. It's huge. We're talking about a floating hospital, a floating lab. It's a lot of stuff. Am I a Legatus? No. See how much money I've put in Star Citizen. Let me check something real quick. There we go. Let's look at my total amount of spent. I know there's like a summary somewhere. The total I've spent in game, on this game, over the last 8 years. Now remember, probably a good 95% of this is just towards, what do I put this? Towards giveaways. So buying ships and packages and add-ons and stuff like that to give away is $21,000. I backed in 2013, and of that $21,000, I think $1,000 is my personal account, is my personal money. So, because it counts if you, like, for instance, if you purchased a starter ship and you purchased another, like, you have just a starter ship and you bought an account for a friend, like a starter pack for your friend, and you gave that to your friend, it's your money counts towards your total, but your friend doesn't. So it's not guys, most of that wasn't my money. Most of that was y'all's money going back into the stream. Yep. Again, 21K over 7 years with I've been streaming not full time, but like mainline for, gosh, 2015? It's about 5 years. So that's 5 years worth of giveaways right there. Yeah, it's about right. About 4K a year. But you make business out of producing SE content for people. Nothing unreasonable. Yeah, like none of that is my money. Like I said, it's money that I've earned from Twitch through subscriptions or through donations. Some of that goes to just keeping the stream. Like, for instance, I pay for licensing for Adobe Premiere, for the Adobe Suite, Photoshop, all that, After Effects. I also pay for a website, which I have to build. I still haven't. I have a domain for it. Let's see what else. It's currently just linked to my Twitch. I also pay for programs for like premium programs for things like Better Twitch TV. I pay for Pretzel Rocks, which you're listening right now. So some of that money goes into there. And I average little, like, only recently, in the last 3 years, have I made more than like a couple $1,000s on Twitch. I think the last 3 years I've made about 10K as on average. And I've actually, of that, most of it went back into the stream. It's like operating costs. It's not fully, but mostly, yeah. Did you pledge for land men back in 2015? Yeah, I got some land for that kind of stuff back then. They're like $50, something like that. I think I gave it all away though. Yes, that's also true. I've paid at least like $300 I've made this year has gone to Darj just for overlays. I like this last 2 years are the first 2 years that I actually earned money from the stream. And I've only earned this year I earned about $300 off the stream after operating costs and everything else like that. And the year before that I made like $50, like positive. No, I'm not doing 8K streaming. Here's the problem about doing 8K streaming. Who has the bandwidth for that? Like, the issue with streaming in general at beyond 1080 is that very few people have the bandwidth to support even 1080 streams. Most people who are streaming stuff in are going to be watching it at lower resolutions, like 720 or even lower. And because their bandwidth can't handle, they don't have enough bandwidth to watch that at higher levels. So 8K streams is good for like, if you live in Stockholm, you know, you live in a place that has incredibly fast connections. It's probably right, yeah. I couldn't pump 100 Mbps. The maximum I could pump is 15 Mbps. Oops, sorry. All right, serious question time. Xenothreat. When does this PO experience a terrorist attack? Well, if 20 Mbps, I would assume that 8K at least doubles it, so it'd be 40 Mbps. Hey, look, it's CIG Jake Acapella. Everybody, ask your very important questions about whatever's thing you've been waiting for the last 8 years. As is tradition. So, a faith org? Sure, I'll make a cult. $400i? I don't know much about the 400i. All I know about the 400i is what I've seen on the leaks. It makes sense. But we'll see. Blame Jake. There was some information about it in the files that someone pulled out. The problem is that Evocati patches tend to be messy. So there's likely a ton of stuff in the Evocati patches which don't mean anything, that are just leftover files from other stuff or mislabeled. CIG is kind of infamous for misspellings in their files. We'll see. I don't want to do too much speculation on it because we don't really know what it is. Me living in a forest, I just have access to about 300 DSL. That's not bad. 300 megabits per second DSL is not bad. I mean, I have 100 Mbps on average download. We don't know. All we know is that it showed up in the files, Malcor. And I don't want to talk about it too much just because I'm still under NDA. And I don't know if even talking about what was in the files is going to violate my NDA. The ODS mothership of the Expanse made me laugh every time I thought about it. Well, it also makes sense. That made sense. You want them to defund Evocati? Evocati makes sense. The reason why Evocati makes sense is because many people who are new may not have experienced the 2.0, I want to say. Or is it? Yeah, it was 2.0. The 2.0 release. The 2.0 release, they had a PTU, just like everything else. And just like everything else, PTU was not, you could stream it. So it would give early access to people who were PTU testers. I was one of them. And 2.0, let's just say this, streamers had timers for crash times. And we were lucky to get to our cockpits and get a ship off and fly around before the game crashed. It was horrible. Like, you think a random 30K is bad, like, at least you could play an hour. You know, at least you might have 130K per session. You know, if you're like really unlucky, maybe 2 or 3 on average. But like, this was like a 30K. Distress bacon. 2 words. Distress bacon. Yes, Tess the Bannister. She's from 2.0. It was like you would go literally 10 minutes. It was a 30K every 10 minutes is how bad it was. So that was full display for 2 months on the Star Citizen for Star Citizen content. That was it. That's all the content that you could see for Star Citizen was people trying to play in a ships. Now, most fans were okay with it. But I understand it's reasonable that CIG went, yeah, that's bad. Let's not do that. So they invented Evocati as a way of being NDA, so you couldn't release it, so that they could control the media a little bit more, so that they could allow for to test things and builds that were unstable. Quite literally, everything that's in Evocati goes into PTU. And the things that don't, they'll usually talk about it. Like, for instance, the 100-player server test that they promoted that they did it. So, in reality, what they need is, with Evocati, what they need is more dedicated testers, and they need, they really just need people they need to put a moratorium, a special kind of NTA, which doesn't exist, so they'd have to write it, where you couldn't post pictures about it, and you couldn't post video content about it, but you could talk about it. Which meant, you know, no visual media, I guess you could say. Just because, like, for instance, I don't know sometimes when I'm an ETF what is an ETF and what's been leaked and what hasn't. So, bleh. Big Benny challenge for the win, yeah. All right. Well, no, it's more, Darj, it's more like you could still do visual media. That's not what I'm not talking about. Don't do visual media. I'm saying, like, because the real reason why ETF exists isn't really, as far as I understand, the NDA for ETF, it isn't necessarily for, because they don't want people to know about stuff. It's because they don't want that to be the front light, because pictures and video are much more damning and much more bad, harder to control, especially when it's a really buggy build that crashes all the time. Because then people just freak out about it because it's like, Star Citizen's going to fail. It's like, dude, it's an ETF build. This is normal. Like, I've played games in early closed alpha testing. Yes, that's fucking what happens all the time. It's a miracle any game works in the first place the way it's supposed to. But let's talk about Xenothreat. Okay. Yeah, they don't want people to believe that the test build is the final build. That's the key. And I feel like they could actually do it could actually control the narrative a little bit better if Evocati testers were allowed to talk about their experiences. Because Evocati testers will probably be the first ones to come to the front when everyone's saying, like, shit's burning, everything's bad, and go, yo, this is normal. we experience this all the time, guys. This is not new. You know, this is all right. And then people are like, oh, I wonder when it's going to go to PTU. Like, you've got testers who come in and be like, it's not coming to PTU. So, like, it really does help. I feel like it would actually help them control the narrative a little bit more than, you know, whatever. How do you feel about the state of the game? Do you have confidence in the developers? Yes, I do. The state of the game is fine. The state of the game, CIG is slow in their development, and I will say that I wish it was faster, but I also understand that there's kind of a back-end issue right now rather than anything else. Everything significant is gated by iCache and server meshing, as well as, you know, things like the quanta and the quantum system for the background AI stuff. And that stuff takes time. Like, they don't have, and it wouldn't even make sense to have a large group of developers working on that stuff. It makes sense to have smaller teams that can code, but that just takes time. They're developing new code. Like, there's no off-the-shelf solution they can pull and just plug in and make it work. They have to develop it, and that can take time. It takes time to test. It takes time to build and then test and then integrate with the rest of the system. So, and that's the biggest gripe that most people have with the game, is just how slow it takes to develop. And it's like Cyberpunk, you know, in many ways took as long. And it's just coming out now. And I know people are like, well, it didn't really start until this time because they were working on other things. And it's like, and when did Star Citizen start development? Let's be honest here. Star Citizen did not start development until at least 2015 in terms of actual content that was matters. Before that was just testing. A couple dudes in a basement does not a development team make. Counting anniversary to anniversary sale is probably a little bit better in terms of time spent, but even then, like, the dogfight module, which was Arena Commander, didn't come out until 2014. So no, Dr. Wing, we'll talk about that in a second. Now, I will say also, Aiden, is that Star Citizen's not in a state that I would suggest many people try to play it. If you're okay with early access games, if you're looking for, 20 to 40 hours of entertainment that, well, you'll have some bugs and some issues, but you'll mostly have a good time, then yeah, Star Citizen's all right for you. I usually don't suggest it for people, your average person who just picks up and play. Like, if you're going to go buy Cyberpunk, which you should, it looks fun. Maybe wait a day or two to see what the reviews are like before buying it, but you're not going to change anything. But if you're going to buy Cyberpunk, I wouldn't suggest buying Star Citizen, because Cyberpunk should be done. Star Citizen isn't. But in terms of overall, yeah, I'm okay with CIG's development currently. I have my gripes with CIG, but it's not in development. It has 100% to do with how they communicate the development. But they're getting better at it. Paul, I wanted to say your video on the history of Cyberpunk 2077 as a 30-year vet of Cyberpunk 2020 and 2010. I can say great job. Thank you, Lou. I did a lot of research for it, and it's a very interesting world. And I will also say this is a little bit of a spoiler, not really, because they already spoiled it in the trailers. But fuck Johnny Silverhand. Okay. We almost fucked it up. Jake was helping me out with it because I did my own research, and Jake double-checked a lot of my resources because he's got this reference book. And he came to me and said, the mob war is called the Third Corporate War. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I compiled it, edited it, put everything up. It was uploaded. I had the link up. And then I was watching another video. By the way, if you guys haven't, and this is especially for those of you who are watching this on YouTube later, if you guys want to know a little bit more about lore for Cyberpunk, one of the channels I suggest going to is Mad Queen, the Mad Queen Show. She's a fantastic lore creator. She's been around in the Cyberpunk 2077 2077 community for 3-4 years making content. She's great. She does all sorts of lore, all sorts of deep dives, small little looks. She's a good channel. So we do different approaches, but I always like I love lore. I like lore channels, so please go watch her as well. Watch me, but watch her as well. But I was watching one of her videos, just go through the timeline and just kind of see how I truncated it, because I did a lot of truncating. And then she mentioned the Third Corporate War being almost entirely fought on the net, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. That's not what the mob war is like. And then I went back and did my research and did some references, like, oh shit, no, it's not the Third Corporate War, it's different. So I had to go back, and luckily it was just one line, but I had to cut that line out and then post it. So, the Mad Queen Show. Mad Queen Show. Just Google Mad Queen Cyberpunk, and you should be able to find her. She's from Barcelona, so she's got a very thick accent, which can be difficult to understand sometimes. But she does a really good job of enunciating and getting it out there. So, and after you listen to a couple of her videos, you kind of get the whole thing. He was a terrorist, Lou, and you know it. It's funny because like Johnny Silverhand really is kind of like a Che Guevara of the cyberpunk universe, and I think he's actually based off of Che. I wouldn't be surprised. Xenothreat. Let's talk about Xenothreat. But yes, before we do, one more thing. We did release a primer for Cyberpunk 2077. It truncates the lore, the background story, so everything you basically need to know about how the universe was created, background for things like Eurodollars, aka the Eddy, things like Night City, how was it founded, who the founder was, the corporations and how they work, things like Arasaka, the different types of people that live in the sub cities and the lower cities and the combat zones, the fixers, the solos, the net runners, the nomads, the techies, so on and so forth. Like jargon to pick up a little bit, just kind of give you some background of how the societies functions and like the situation that the world's in the cyberpunk universe. So that's on YouTube right now. You should watch that as well.
You can sit around and talk about that all you want. But until it is actually reality...
It's not spoiling. I'm giving you guys background. Link for the lazy? Sure. I'm not spoiling plot points. I honestly with a lot of people who talk about like, oh, I want to be spoiled. I'm like, here's the thing. 100% CD Projekt. Thank you so much for that $10 there, Aiden. Thank you for replying to my questions. I have one question. Do you think the developers should prioritize optimization and service stability above all else or content? No, I don't think they should do either. They should honestly, they should be focused on building the background. They need to get iCache done. They need to get server meshing, and they shouldn't be building anything for the game until. What the fuck is this? I don't care about this. I think I set it up properly. Let's do that. They shouldn't be building any new gameplay loops that would be required to change when they have iCache and server meshing in. So essentially anything they should be making is that's not the back end, should be stuff that could work right now that isn't going to cause tech debt down the line. That's generally what they're doing. They're focusing on things that they can do to improve the gameplay right now without adding to the tech debt. Okay, let's talk about this. No more questions about anything else. We're gonna talk about Xenothreat. That's what I was here for and been trying to do. So, for those of you guys who don't know who Xenothreat is the top gang in Ruin Station. Ruin Station is the only landing zone in the Pyro system. Xenothreat is a group of individuals who are outlaws. Most of the smaller members, like the thugs, the enforcers, they are generally lifetime criminals, career criminals. And the upper echelon of Xenothreat are all ex-military. Ex-Navy, Marines, Army, who became disillusioned with the UEE and left. Now, these ex-military folks are all have the same goal in mind. They're all incredibly xenophobic. Like, conspiracy theory level, tin hat, aliens are sapping our precious bodily fluids levels of tinfoil hat crazies. So they 100% believe that aliens are trying to control humanity, and that anybody who even looks at an alien and doesn't stab them in the face is a traitor to their species. So they're in charge of Pyro. You can tell there's not a lot of Banu and Xi'an and Pyro. They're also right next to Stanton. This, as we all know, the Pyro system is connected to Stanton. So Xenothreat is likely, based off of what we've heard, because that's who's doing these broadcasts, is invading the Stanton system. This is a political invasion. This is the equivalent of a full-on military campaign. However, the people who are fighting it are not military pilots. The people who are controlling them are. So you can think of this as a low-scale invasion, a low-grade invasion. They're attempting to break into Stanton. Now, their end goal is to conquer Stanton, 100%. I don't know if they'll be able to initially do that, and you as the player will likely have to stop them. That's the missions around it. I wouldn't be surprised if Orison becomes the target of theirs, because Orison is a shipyard, and that is capable of controlling military ships. And I also wouldn't be surprised if Xenothreat have access to military-grade weaponry and military-grade ships. One of the things that was being added in 3.12 is the Idris. The Idris is coming in as an enemy combatant for hostile crime players. So if you stick around like Portals Are Too Long with a high crime stat, a Idris is going to show up. That's what they said months ago. None of this is leaks, by the way, guys. This is all stuff that CIG's already talked about. So with them slipping the message, the attention people of Stanton message one more time into the IAE, it's not hard to see that they're trying to do it. Now, I don't know if 3.12 is going to come in. I hope it is. I hope they're putting them in 3.12. But we'll see. I can fly. Yeah.
I can fly. I'm pilot.
Exactly. I don't want to say it was aliens, but it was aliens, yes. You can't fight with my own laser Idris? Yeah. Sucking my friend's brains out. Is Ruin Station just Grimhex on steroids? Kinda. Yeah, I think it's probably a good analogy. It's Grimhex on steroids, because it was a terraforming station. It was a station designed for terraforming personnel while they were terraforming the last planet in the Pyro system, and then they realized it was a waste of time, so they stopped and abandoned the station. And of course, I think this is like an unwritten rule in the Star Citizen universe. If you abandon a station, outlaws will control it. Just like, you can't leave stuff around because humans will just pick up and take it again. I do, Das. I do. It's free real estate. Yeah, exactly. See, Grimhex. exactly. So, here's the thing. I don't feel like Xenothreat likely has infinite numbers of Idrises. So, if they have an Idris, then it's likely one or two. And if they have multiples, like, in terms of the narrative, I don't think this is going to be something that's going on past 312. If this is a 312 thing, I would fully expect it to exist.
Chord progressions, sounds.
Stop it. Only vocals. It's not vocals. Hey, Dusty Space. But I like, we're not going to see Xenothreat in 313 or whatever's after 312. It's not going to exist. Okay. So if we're not going to have Xenothreat in 313, if you want to participate in this event, definitely play in 312. And I like that. I love that concept because it's like, hey, CIG's like, hey, here's an event. It's not coming back. You better play. Oh, by the way, this is going to have lore complications. So, you want to impact the universe? There you go. Dumptown 2.0, yeah. We're talking about the invasion of Xenothreat into the Stanton system. Yes, something like Invictus, yeah. Xenothreat armor sets? No, Xenothreat is a gang outside of Pyro. It's actually the ruling gang of Pyro. So Xenothreat is a group of individuals who are highly xenophobic, who currently control Ruin Station, which is the main landing zone of Pyro. They're also the top gang in the Pyro system, though the Pyro system has a lot of gangs. So I need to stand in a line and be shot? I mean, I don't know. So my hope is, hope my C2 comes out in 312 so I can make a fortune to donate towards the defense funds. Possibly. I don't think you're going to get the C2 in 312. Just remember, Xenothreat watches out for humans who are humanity first. What do you mean it's a one-time event? So, Dano, think about Invictus. You know how Invictus was an event that took place over a certain amount of time, and then we don't see traveling Idrises and javelins everywhere? You think of the IAE, where you have like this event where you can go see stuff and that kind of thing, but once it's over with, it's done. You can't go back to it. That kind of thing. And there's going to be a lot of events like that CIG is planning on doing. It's like not something like a typical video game where it's like, this event happened, like this is a raid. You can always do this raid. Like, think of these as kind of what CIG plans on doing as like lore points, story points that impact the game. So the Stanton gangs in Pirates would likely not like Xenothreat. They're competitors. The gangs and the what are they called? Brain fart. The gangs and the syndicates of Stanton are direct competitors to the gangs of Pyro, because the gang of the main export of Pyro is drugs. They took all of the science labs, in the ruined station, in the station that was built for the terraforming, and they turned them into drug labs. It's a lot of drugs. And because they're making drugs, for instance, they don't make a lot of food. So that's one of the things that I'm pretty certain will be like a big commodity. Like food and water will be a huge commodity to ship to Pyro to Ruin Station, because they need it and they'll pay a lot for it. And if you pay for it, you drop it off there, get a bunch of money, buy their drugs, pretty cheap because they've got a lot of them, then come back to Stanton and sell those drugs, profit. With our new tech-hearted Empress, do you think we'll see a return of our favorite repair drones that took away in 2.0 days? Probably not, but we'll probably see something similar. Hey, I have a question related to the Idris. There are two Idris versions that have different hard points. Is like the size 7 hardpoint turret on the front missing the turret, or does it leave a slot for a turret? It's missing. It's gone. It's like, I think it's completely removed for the Idris P. Are we going to know when it's going to happen? No. The theory right now is 312 because the People of Stanton message, which is the Xenothreat message, was heard at the IAE, and they actually did a little like twist thing for like an ARG, because there's an actual account that CIG runs that retweeted it. So pay a fortune for munchies, exactly. Doritos and Mountain Dew, baby. Lots of Funyuns. The character doesn't have a mobile labs module deployable on the ground. It doesn't, no. It might. We don't know. All right, guys, I'm going to take a quick break, a bio break. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I pinch.
I went to the bathroom. I made the mistake of eating cheese before the stream.
Barcelona! Barcelona!
Does he know he has a live show on? No, I don't. Of course I don't. What are you talking about? Of course I do. But when you gotta go, my man. By the way, I love the content, my dude. Working on a third shift, and Astro Pub uploads at 3 a.m. Eastern. Are the only things keeping me sane. Thanks for getting me through the that's no problem, man. As somebody who used to work third shift, I understand. The biggest problem with third shift is not falling asleep and being entertained. Podcasts are great. So are late night radio. Like Cutlass, super spicy that gives you fiery runny shits afterwards. Ouch. I will. Drake is fine. And you're wrong, Darsh. I will fight you with a Cutlass. Wasn't the Xenothreat message being played at PO before? Yes. Because it was being played at the IAE. Yinzer. The IAE had it this year. And the account run by CIG of the IAE, there's an Intergalactic Aerospace Expo Twitter account that's run by CIG, posted a message about it that was then retweeted by Star Citizen, the main account. And the audio was 100% the same message. Yeah, CIG wouldn't be tweeting about that and promoting it if they didn't plan on releasing it soon. That doesn't necessarily mean 3.12. It could mean the patch after 3.12 if they can't get it done. But I have hope, which will CIG will dash, as they usually do. Blame Jake. As always. As long as he fights you with Drake, not too much to worry. Ouch. Ouch. So it wasn't an accident. I don't think so. Yeah, it was Inzer. According to the audio game files, it seems like we're going to have combat missions to counter their invasion. Yes. So what brought this Xenothreat thing on? I mean, how did we learn about it? So Phantom, back in 3.7.1, there was a message being played at Port Olisar, but it was also being played at several other locations around the Stanton system, which was the People of Stanton message that came about a long time ago. I don't know if you were here last year or not. I assume you were, Phantom. I think you've been around here for long enough, but I assume things. So that message was played for a bit and then disappeared, and we never got anything of it. Audio of that was left in a PTU build the next patch over, like in 3.8. It was left in there, and that was leaked out because it was left not in an Evocati build, but in a PTU build. And then it disappeared for a while, and now suddenly the message was being played over the IAE loudspeakers, and CIG is promoting it. So we know that based off the files that were released and based off of CIG's own promotion that it's coming out. So, what does Xenothreat want from the raid on Stanton? They want Stanton. Xenothreat wants to overthrow the government. Xenothreat is anti-government radicals who are trying to overthrow the government. And it makes sense that they were literally planning on doing this anyways, but with the current imperator, the one who was just elected imperator, it makes a lot of sense. Hey, Justin Hawkins, 6-7. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know if you'll be able to choose Xenothreat's side. There's nothing that seems to indicate that. They seem to be the bad guy you have to fight rather than help them out. I don't think CIG is quite ready to let you choose a bunch of xenophobic radicals as your allies. Can you play the audio? Yeah, sure. Let me find up the original. The original audio. This was actually tweeted yesterday. Let me see. Here's the message. Let me mute the. Pretzel rocks. Okay.
Attention to Lord Snapper. A great injustice. Attention to Lord Snapper. A great injustice.
Bingo bango. That's the current message being played. It's very garbled, but there was a leaked one, which I don't want to necessarily leak right now because I'd rather you guys listen to it in game when it comes out. But I can tell you that it's a Xenothreat message. Yes, that is from a tweet, and multiple people reported this. It only showed up the last day of the IAE, which was smart on CIG's part because they assumed no one's going to go there. So if they drop this in there, then the people who are going there are going to start talking about it. So it's a way of getting people to want to log into it. Perseus flyable in 312? No. So here's the thing. Xenothreat is not the kind of group that's like, we'll pay you to fight for us. Xenothreat is the kind of group that is, you're tainted by the touch of Xenos. Unless you are indoctrinated into our ideology and are following our rule and we control you, you are tainted. These are radicals. These are, when I say anti-government radicals, xenophobic anti-government radicals, I mean to the max. They're not going to hire mercenaries to do their job for them. They're going to shoot you. Why? Because you're not a Xenothreat member. And any pirate gang in Pyro is going to be the same. Any NPC group in Pyro is going to fire at you. Why? Because you're not them. Pure anarchy is what you have in Pyro. Oh, they hate Misk. Yeah, they have ships. So more Idris questions. Got it during the IAE. Super happy. P is just a missing turret hard points compared to the M. Yes. It has a hard point for the front mount, but but you don't get anything there. As they have given the info on the laser weapons with the K like range, they haven't. The K is actually an internal thing. It's not actually the name of it. They've said multiple times that the Idris K it's not the Idris K. It's not called the Idris K. It's just an upgrade pack, weapon pack for the Idris. On a slight unrelated note, why did CIG pick black, blue, and white for the ship skins in the IAE? I only ask because when I search for Xenothreat, there's a picture of a black, blue, and white hurricane. We don't know if you search Xenothreat, then it may not be the actual one. We don't actually know what Xenothreat's colors are because they're from Pyro. As far as I know, we haven't seen any evidence of Xenothreat. The only two gang colors we know of are the Dusters, who wear red and orange armor, and the Ninetails, who wear the blue and red armor, like the turquoise armor. Because we love Salty Mike so much. I don't know. This here is black, white, and gold. Yeah. So is there any lore progress for Xenothreat? Like, are they like that they are defeated in this raid? Likely. Likely, we don't know the lore progress, but I assume that if players are active during this event and CIG has like a little marker box that says that players have saved from raids, save Stanton from raids a certain number of times, then Xenothreat will be repelled. Now, here's the thing. This is where things get interesting. In history, if two warring sides go to war and one side is defeated but is not invaded by the other side, lots of things can happen. Usually what happens in a government like Xenothreat, it's catastrophic. A loss like that can cause the entirety of the leadership to be removed, killed by rivals inside their own numbers. In a place like Pyro, it's likely that a defeat at the hands of Stanton by players and by the government, UE, and the advocacy against Xenothreat, if that defeat would likely signal weakness. So many of the other gangs would start to attack Xenothreat to try to claim Pyro and Ruin Station, which would lead to the stable Pyro system becoming a hotbed and a war zone, as different gangs would vie for power inside of Pyro, thus destabilizing the system. And if I were CIG, that makes sense if you're about to throw a bunch of players in that system. You see my point? So that's where the lore starts mattering, where whichever group is defeated in a conflict or is driven out from a location will start to, and those who win will start to have impacts, ripple effects across the rest of the game. And this destabilizing effect in Pyro might allow for players to come in and to dictate who controls Ruin Station. There are other pirate groups in Pyro. There's one that's called the Outlanders. I can't remember the name. They sold their armor sets. Let me see if I can find my armor sets if I still have them. The Overlords. The Overlords is a gang in Pyro. I think they're like a chaotic neutral gang. Like they're known for hunting other pirate groups. This last time I remember, but I haven't done a lot of research into them. They don't really give players nukes. It's more like in tabletop RPG system. One of the kind of ways that I see most people kind of play it is you create a universe and the players drive the universe, but the universe doesn't just end up disappearing. So there are other players in a universe. So the way that CIG seems to be doing it is that the players are the drivers of the universe. There are events that the players can participate that will affect the universe. You don't have to participate if you don't want to, but those are the events that make history. And those events will then drive other events, which will then generate more content. Thinking about this in terms of ripple effects and cascade effects across a society, you start to see where cool things can happen for gameplay purposes. Some of it might be more handmade, like we've seen with Xenothreat Invasion. In the future with Quanta, that will be more procedural, where things just happen because it happens. Hey, man, Solo. you think players will have an opportunity to claim Ruin Station? Possibly. You know, that could be a possibility. Lol, so do we know how big Xenothreat is? They're likely to have their hands on an Idris. Is like a home force 1, where they probably have multiple, or overall just a larger force that wouldn't go bankrupt. Likely only a handful, where I don't think they would have endless supplies of Idrises. For gameplay purposes, we'll see how they deal with it, but I assume that they'll want players to be able to face the Idrises and beat them. But in lore, they'd likely have several Idrises, which they either captured or bought on the black market. And because a lot of the Xenothreat leadership are former military, they would know how to crew them. Any possible attempts on Suzkosh's life by Xenothreat, or are they more of a localized group? Well, it's funny you say that, because there was an attempt on the Imperator's life a couple of years ago by a xenophobic radical that tried to kill Emperor Costigan, or Imperator Costigan, I'm sorry, and failed. So we do know that these anti-Xeno radicals have been much more active recently. From the design of the Perseus, it appears that it can float, as the lower turret can raise from retracting inside. Is this the first phase to water bases and optional parking? Maybe. Overlords bring order to chaos. Yeah. Water system failures, possibly. We don't know how big they are, but we do know that they control pyro. So I assume that any group that's big enough to control an entire system, especially one as wild as pyro, is probably large. They probably have... I wouldn't be surprised if they had thousands, if not tens of thousands, of soldiers, troops. Likely anywhere from cheap buccaneers up to an Idris. But you're not just gonna be facing Idrises. You'd probably be facing waves of smaller fighters and bombers and cutlasses, freelancers, that kind of thing. Femship says the gun goes back up so you can land and lift off, and lift can go down. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it works too. Yeah. Do you think that the quote-unquote good guy side of the Xenothreat fight could have something to do with the INS Jericho, the UE naval station coming in, and MIC L1 and 312? Possibly. I don't want to comment too much on that because I'm under NDA, so... Hey Astro, I'm a little late to the party. I spent ages trying to hear the Tannoy that picked up the Xeno message in Expo. I changed server 7 times, sat in the Expo for a long time each time. Did you hear it in game yourself? I didn't, but there were multiple people in my server who heard it. And there was actually a recording by somebody called Xavier on Twitter. And I'll have you guys listen to it one more time.
Attention to those matter. A great injustice.
There you go. Yeah, I've asked to be removed from Evo just because there's a lot of complicated issues. Like, for instance, I don't want to have to, like, get nuked because I said something wrong when I wouldn't, because I don't know what's been leaked and what's not been. There are other evidences that are pointing towards Xenothreat, but that's the big one. And the fact that CIG talked about, or it was retweeted by CIG. Ow. Ow, that's even worse. Is this Xenothreat the same as Operation Pitchfork, or am I way off? You're way off. I totally get it. I didn't mean to put you in a position, my friend. It's all right. No, it's okay. So a lot of people aren't. So, is the Xenothreat just a space fight? Do they land on a planet? We don't know. Depends on how long they stay in Stanton. I don't think they'll be around longer than 312, but they could be. It just could be just phase 1 of a multiple phase invasion. The initial probing and kind of foothold acquisition. Let me put it this way, GT. I understand. I get the whole, it's sus because it's really suspect in terms of like, there's only one Twitter that talked about it, and someone could have easily just edited it in rather than it being the actual thing, and it could be. But the reality is that I've heard multiple reports from other people who I assume heard it themselves on my Discord. So everything seems to be hinting towards that being the reality. Plus, it's the only real event that they've had planned for a long time. Yes, probing. Not so consensual though. You didn't think I'd risk the battle for Sand and Soul in a fist fight with you? Exactly, Parky. That was the same message from PO earlier last year. Yes. Have you heard anything about adding different modes of transportations and stations and planets so that elevators aren't the only way, maybe stairs? Possibly. I think that they're going to use elevators and stations just because it's procedural generation. And there are some stairs and that kind of stuff, but a lot of it is sleight of hand. They want to use elevators because it's easier to compartmentalize. Was there something back when Xenothreat was going to involve the Port All-Stars destruction? That was the rumor, was that it was going to involve Port All-Stars destruction. That was also when people thought it was going to be Vanduul. And I made a video back then saying it's not Vanduul. And I've been very adamant that it wasn't Vanduul. And then the leaked files came out about the message, the full clear message came out, and I was like, fucking told you. So the idea that it could be Port All-Star, I'd love for it to be, but I don't think it is. So they have said anything about the guns get bigger than the size 10, and aside from like the full upgrade kits for big capitals like that, do you think they'll let us mix and match upgrades like Missile Bay and P? Maybe. I mean, it depends on the hard points and how the hard points will function when it comes to the Idris. Any ideas what the Grace and Justice message was referring to? I've heard the whole message. The whole clear message that was leaked back in January. Do you think CIG would consider Xenothreat campaign and Stanton system before jump points properly addressed in the PU? 100%. I could see them using the Xenothreat as a common enemy, similar to the Vanduul, where the Vanduul will just kill you, in the Stanton system, as a story progression. So you have to fight them here, you fight them there, you fight them everywhere. Cat in the Hat, Dr. Seuss. The Slippery Stanton War. And then the result of the fight with the Xenothreat is them retreating back to the Pyro and possibly involving missions for you to, from the advocacy, to invade Pyro and fight Xenothreat on there, like a counter invasion, a counter attack, or causing more other problems in there. I could easily see that. Pure speculation on my part, but it seems Xenothreat may be a reoccurring presence. Such a group would work well as a counter to our Imperator elect, for sure. And they have been building up the xenophobic side of the UEE very big over the last couple of years, with an attempt on the Imperator's life by a xenophobic radical because of his support of the Human-Geon Trade Agreement, or HUXA. And the thing about this is the cheeky part. They've talked about Xenothreat as part of Pyro since the beginning. This is not something that just showed up. This is something that's been in their pocket for a while. They may have not had all the details, but they definitely saw the potential for storytelling with this group in terms of as a antagonist, at least in the Stanton system. You missed a lot, Gunra. So, Xenothreat is an organization, a group that controls Pyro. They are the top dog in Pyro, and they control Ruin Station. They're also the group that's going to be invading Stanton fairly soon. Well, that's the thing. Is like when this first came up, when the message first came up last year, I looked up Xenothreat and found that there were references to Xenothreat as far back as like 2013, 2014. They have been referenced in lore for a while. Now, that reference was only that they are the rulers of Ruin Station, which is the only landing zone in Pyro. Yes, so there was a message. I will turn the volume down a little bit because it blew people's ears out last time I did this. But let me... This was the message that was heard in 3.7 and apparently was heard on the floor of IAE this year and was retweeted out by the official Intergalactic Aerospace Expo Twitter account, which was then promoted by CIG's RSI account. So it's somewhat legitimate in terms of the... let's see who's at the likes. They didn't like this one, so we don't know if this is legit or not. But this was the message that apparently that was heard.
Attention, people of Snapton. A great injustice.
There you go. This is why you guys gonna need to come here earlier. We talk about this stuff. Summary: shit's about to pop off in Stanton. There's about to be a war, and that war is going to get nasty. We're talking full-blown military, well, sort of, invasion of Stanton by a group called Xenothreat from the Pyro system. Likely an event that the players will have to take place in to determine the future of Stanton. Remember, the military is not in Stanton. Mostly. Most of the military forces are located outside of Stanton and dealing with the war with the Van Duel. So, and it can take days for, if not weeks, for forces to arrive to back up their forces in Stanton. And they may not show up. It may not be deemed a credible threat. So, local forces have to take care of it. And local forces aren't prepared to take care of it, which is where players come in, because players are prepared to take care of it. They don't have better microphones than 29, 40, 50. Well, the likelihood is that this is being broadcast through the jump point into Stanton, and the message is probably garbled because it's not. The broadcast equipment is probably third rate, and I would assume something like pirate radio, because it's actually being piped in through loudspeakers. So it's like trying to take over a signal. So the signal is probably not. It's a bunch of like factors that don't make a lot of sense. So. My one ship to respawn. Do we know if it's in lore that we'll be able to transmit through jump holes? Yes, you'll be able to transmit through jump points. Sort of. You have to use a drone. You have to send a drone through a jump point with the message to be able to send it, which again makes it even more likely that if they're sending a drone through to broadcast the message, even if it's, or maybe even something like a herald, you're dealing with a lot of power to broadcast a message at long distances through using light speed, and then trying to hack in a remote system may not be easy. Grimhex makes more sense as a target for Xenothreat to make a foothold, as the UE doesn't care about Grimhex. True, but Grimhex doesn't have the capabilities of servicing and maintaining large capital ships. There are other stations that do. It's a matter of what makes sense as a foothold for a military occupation force, and a military base or a station that can service large ships makes a lot of sense. You need a place where you can pool supplies and build up your forces, and a place that's defensible, that's defendable, and has areas for you to unload the supplies or to at least make repairs. Grimhex is a piece of shit. It's not built for that. It's great for a base for outlaws and rebels who are on the fringes of society, not so much for an occupying force. I do expect Xenothreat to attack Grimhex, though. Grimhex is basically controlled by their rivals in the Stanton system. Yep, I thought they said that they don't have light-speed communication. They don't. They do. Of course they have light-speed communication. They don't have faster than light communication. We have light-speed communication now, guys. That's why we have latency from broadcasting voices around the world. It's that it's slow. But trying to transmit through a jump point is impossible, so you have to use drones. The 890 jump is bigger than most stations can handle without a ship-to-station docking. Exactly. B101. We don't know if it's the lore that we're... Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to keep playing with it. Just because you mentioned it, I'm going to keep playing with it. I like playing with my hair. It's long. I'm not used to it being long. I need it to be shorter. What are you going to do considering the fact that most orgs are planning on also attacking the UEE in 312 instead of the Xenothreat? They don't know what's coming, and it seems that I'm the only one so far that's legitimate plans to defend the UEN. I think a lot of people will defend the UEN if they think there's a higher chance. For instance, if you're attacking the Xenothreat on these, when they're attacking a station or a landing zone, they're likely going to have more of a challenge than the UEE. Because the UEE is weaker in Stanton right now. They just don't have a lot of forces because they're relying on local security, Crusader security, Blackjack security, to maintain order. So I wouldn't expect an extensive military or advocacy presence in the system. And it could happen. It could easily happen where CIG, because the CIG wants players to impact the lore, where if players are just like, we're going to cause chaos because we can, which would happen in a situation where you have a occupying force come in. Sometimes people want to settle old debts. Attacking the UEE rather than defending them, then we could have Xenothreat as a force in Stanton for longer. But I wouldn't expect the Xenothreat would be able to control Stanton. There's no way the UEE would allow that to happen. How valuable does the UEE consider Stanton system? Incredibly. It is the main transport route and travel route between Earth and Terra, the two biggest planets in terms of economically and politically. Well, economically, politically, and socially, the two biggest planets in the Empire. There's no way they let that trade route get blocked. However, it depends on how seriously a threat Xenothreat is. If Xenothreat is able to take over Olisar or a landing zone or Orison, yeah, they'll take it as a serious threat then. Cog, I don't know what you're trying to do, buddy. The CIG makes something like that an event for in-game items for supporting UEE. Possibly, yeah. Well, that's the thing, General. That's one of the reasons why they sold Stanton in the first place, was because there was a large presence in the Stanton system, and it was expensive to maintain. So I don't think you have a huge military presence in Stanton at the moment. There probably is some military presence. It's just probably not extensive. Something like an outpost or a base, small base, something that will essentially serve as a token defense force, mostly to deal with local hooligans. It'd be interesting to see if the system turned into a corporate war zone as well, but the UEE wouldn't let that happen unless it's collapsed. Yeah. There's a large UEE military presence in Terra. There is. The question is again, how quickly do they mobilize, and we don't know how large it is anymore. A lot of the military is now focused on the Vanduul, which is on the other side of the Empire. So I wouldn't be surprised if the military presence, even in Terra, isn't very big. And if it is, it's mostly green recruits or non-combat focused. The people you want to deal with, a hardened group of thugs and ex-military as a force, are not the boots you pulled out of camp. Not the FNGs. You don't want to pull the kid who just got out of college with his butter bars and throw him into the front lines against hardened veterans. That's a way of dying. It's a way of losing a lot of military equipment very quickly. Because again, they also may have personnel, but they may not have capital ships. So if Xenothreat takes Stanton, they could be splitting the distance from both Earth and Terra. Yeah, they could easily cut off the transport lines, the trade lines between those two systems, which is a huge deal. What org am I in? Right now I'm in test is my main org. What could be the consequences of successful Xenothreat attack? Stations can't be physically destroyed yet, or can they? We don't know. So thinking about, in terms of historically speaking, if Xenothreat was able to get a foothold in Stanton, I would expect higher levels of active engagements. So the return of the pull you out of quantum every 5 minutes kind of thing. I'd expect stations to be either surrounded or conquered. So possibly a situation where you have a landing zone or a station which is under the control of a hostile force. So you can't go there to refuel and resupply, which then takes a huge chunk out of your ability to travel around the system. It would also generate more. You also probably would have higher levels of military presence, so that if you are a criminal or you do criminal activities, like I'm a smuggler, it probably is bad news for the smuggling business, because it becomes much more difficult to run your business when everyone is scanning everybody else because they're afraid of insurgencies and that kind of thing going on. So no. So Test and Star Citizen is different from Test Alliance and Eve. I believe that the founder, Montoya, and the initial group of people who founded Test and Star Citizen are from Eve, but they're not the same Test. They asked for permission to use the name from the Eve group, and the Eve group is like, fuck it, we don't give a shit. So they did, but they are not the same organization. It would encourage cargo running with escorts, create kinds of unique gameplay loops you wouldn't get in a stable game world. Exactly. Not related to anything else, but hers seem to be separate from everybody else's. A question on the new Imperator. Do you know if she has any opinions on other Imperator elects stances? Like her opinion on moving the cap to Terra or terraforming? They showed her stance. I don't know if they did or not. Though you knowing her own... welcome, Firik. I didn't see that. But she likely has similar stances. I don't think she'd want to move the capital away from Terra, or to Terra. That doesn't matter to her. It doesn't matter where the capital is. She doesn't care. I'd imagine she has similar stances to many of the other candidates on good relationships with people like the Xi'an. If she has a thing for terraforming, she'd probably be pro-terraforming. Though she'd probably also be pro... what are they called? Fair Chance Act. She'd probably want to strengthen Fair Chance Act, because Fair Chance Act is also used to study a bunch of developing systems which have nothing to do with intelligent life. So she probably... And she is very pro-synth world as well, so... While she'd be okay with terraforming, she'd probably have complicated issues for it. Test Squadron, Best Squadron. Squadron. Not Squadron, Squadron. That feeling when you buy 850k worth of Laranite and sell it at Area 18, only to get there and have the trade terminal tell you it's illegal cargo and won't let you sell it. I mean, yeah, that's the kind of what you'd expect at when Xenothreat comes over. But I'm assuming you're actually talking about a real in-game bug. Yes, you did, Miles. Yes, you did. Are Xenothreat attacks going to be AI controlled or human controlled? No, I don't think players are going to be able to back up Xenothreat. Based off of what I understand about their philosophy, we're talking zealots, tinfoil hat, anti-government rebels, super zealots who hate the UEE. They hate anything connected to the UEE, and if you willingly live in the UEE, you're as culpable as anybody else who is actually in control. It wouldn't be a stretch to believe that they honestly think that people who live in the UEE are mind controlled by Xenos. So them killing you is a mercy. I almost, based off of my research, I'd almost say that this is CIG's response to, like, they are very, they're almost like a parody of the Imperium of Man from 40K. Like the total total xenophobic anti-alien mentality of the Imperium of Man from 40K. Do you have a favorite race in Star Citizen? I love the Tavarans' design and the culture so much. I hope we can play with them at some point. I hope so as well at some point. I like the Banu. I like all of the alien cultures. They're all very interesting. The Vanduul, I think, are the least interesting right now, but that's because we don't know a lot about them. But I would say the Tavaran and the Banu are some of my favorites. I'm still learning more about the Xi'an, but they're kind of cool too. Sounds like your uncle's Facebook feed. Yeah, that makes sense. Brother, hand me the flavor. The heavy flamer. Yeah. Wait, does that mean that you can show RL credentials for being a flat earther? You may be able to play as a Xenothreat? I don't think so. Human supremacist, basically. Yeah. I think if Zebra meant the same kind of system where you became a Xeno or for an event. I don't think you can become a Xeno. Our Xeno attack is going to be AI. I thought you meant Xenothreat. Yeah, so a lot of people don't know that the Xenothreat's a faction. I'm not talking about Xenos. But Xeno attacks are definitely going to be AI controlled. I don't think you're not going to be a player to be able to play as a Xeno for a while, if ever. AI generated algorithms, probably not like Tony Z with his little puppeteering. I think you'll definitely see some of them as scripted events where like CIG designs them to be events in game, but those will probably be telegraphed ahead of times, like major invasions. But most of the attacks by, like, say, the Vanduul will be raids that will be mostly computer generated. Vanduul Group A is running out of supplies, so they go to Vega to do a raid to collect more supplies. Problem solved. I had to buy one AUEC worth of waste, and now the trade terminal lets me sell my rocks. The first 150 towards the crush of the Xenothreat funds raised. Nice. Devarin are easily my favorite species. You sold me on them when your old Lord lectures on them. I would love to see them have a chance to come back as a species and find themselves once more. They're very interesting, yeah. The Emperor protects, yes. Hey, Starkiller. I haven't played Project Wingman yet. I backed it, but we'll play it on stream at some point. The Imperator protects. Friendship is magic, and magic is heresy. Do you think we'll meet with Tavaran members of the UEE Navy in Squadron 42? I'd hope so. There are some spoilers that I know about Squadron 42 that involve the Tavaran, but it's old files. So, and there's not. I'm not going to explain what the spoilers are because it's complicated. Spread the love, by the way, guys. Get a chance to. Release fully Tuesday. Yeah, I had my link to it. They sent me my code. Doesn't the F8 make up for other fighters superfluous? To a degree, the F8 does, but it's also early in development. It's super early in its design life. It's only recently been released to the Navy, and only certain squadrons have them. It's designed to replace the F7. But it's not fully in production yet, which is why you can't really buy a lot of them on the civilian market, even though they have civilian models. Question: what did I miss so far? Everything, Joe. Everything. I'm not even joking. I went on a lot of stuff. Depends on its running costs. Yes, I think the main limiting factor of the F8 is that it's a carrier fighter. It's not designed as a long-range fighter or a patrol fighter. It's more designed as a cap. Cap for a carrier or a strike, carrier strike force kind of thing. Yes, Joe, everything. You missed everything. Do you think the Band of Merchantmen and the Drake Kraken Privateer will be released together? I don't think they'll be released together, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were released pretty close together in terms of their release dates, because I don't think they're going to be coming out until well in the future, and in that future, at that point, they'll probably have the Quanta up and running more than it currently does. So with the faction rep system, do we know some factions that we can rank up in, like the UE military and more? Also, I think players will be able to become advocacy agents. No, you won't be able to become an advocacy agent. You won't be able to join the Navy again or the military. That's Squadron 42 for the military. But you will definitely be able to gain higher reputation levels and be able to give more complicated missions. But the advocacy would be one of them. The Navy would be another. I definitely see possibly even specific naval bases or naval ships you have reputation with. All of the pirate factions you probably have reputation with. Each industry that, like in Stanton, all of the companies that own Stanton. Thank you, Vert, for that sub. That I didn't see the Pramster doing it as well. Thank you for. And someone also bought a round of beers. I am so far behind in everything. Thanks so much for that sub for 28 months with Prime. That's right. Yes, that's right. And Vert, thank you so much for that sub Prime. Do you think there's any basis for the rumored New Origin straight to flyable ship? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. What's your opinion on the rumored Origin ship that leaks? Do you think it might be the 400i? I can't comment too much on the leaks because I'm an Evocati, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I will say that we talked about this a little bit on Inforunners, that CIG tends to like to have a ship released at the end of the year. We actually thought about it. I was talking about it with Execute from the Inforunners and Stress System Leaks. That there's got to be something that they released. They did the same thing with the Mole, where the Mole just showed up and they were like, "Hey, here's the Mole." So we'll see what it is, but it would definitely be possible. It's a definite maybe. The Origin 404. What are your thoughts on the shenanigans we'll get into with the handheld tractor beams and how will they rein that in? I really hope they don't. One of my favorite ideas is to get a group of people with tractor beams and see how many it would take to lift a cutlass off the ground. Cutlass lifting and carrying it with the tractor beam. Hey, Black Dibber. Good evening, Roy. What's the difference between the size of jump points make? Each size of jump point is going to be its circumference, its radius. I don't do math. Whatever the circle thing is, the circle that you can go into. That's the jump point size. So a small jump point is going to be a smaller size, and a large jump point is ginormous. For reference, like a bangle is designed to easily fit in a large jump point. So a large jump point is huge. Probably holds multiple bangles at the same time in the same, like, side by side. Whereas small jump points are the size of an aurora, maybe bigger. Maybe there's one at one point they said that the largest chip that could fit into a small jump point was the Freelancer, which would put like the Cutlass being able to travel through the small jump points. So it's actually the physical size in terms of the ability for you to fit a fin. I just had a stroke there, I guess. Fit a ship in. It's cross section, I guess so. Tractor beam coffin dance with a cutty. Exactly, Greg. Internal diameter cross section, yeah. We need to have a passenger in a cyclone fire it into a tree and slingshot the buggy. Oh my god, that'd be cool. Have I heard anything about the Connie rework in the pipeline? No, I haven't heard anything. Not since the like plaque from the what was it? The Invictus event where for the Connie Taurus saying it was coming out next year. And they removed that for this one. Question, what are your thoughts on the proposed changes to Evocati? I don't know the proposed changes to Evocati. Not off the top of my head. And again, I am an Evocati, so I couldn't comment on it. The tractoring the box that you were standing on was a god moment. That was hilarious to see that in the ISC. Larger ship can fit in a small jump point theoretically is the Freelancer Max. Yeah, that's theoretically. Which means that anything that's smaller than the Freelancer Max could fit in a small jump point, which is the Cutlass. I think we'll be able to say live out of larger ships. Like 80% of my fleet fits in an Idris, which is I just got. I think you could take it down to a planet and run missions out of it. For 100%, you could. You could turn it into its own portable base. In fact, that's what it's designed to be. But an Idris is designed for multiple people, like 10 people running it. So it's a base, but not a base for one person. It's a base for an organization. Or a group of friends. If there's going to be a Origin 5 400i, will there also be a 425A? I couldn't tell you. The larger ships tend to not have that kind of designations. You tend to have, like the 600i has two variants, but it doesn't have, there's not like a 600i and a 615P. It's just 600i and an 890 jump. So. Do you think we'll be able to tractor people? No, it's physics actionable people. I think maybe unconscious people, but not conscious people. Hover dollies, yeah, that's going to be a thing too. Wonder how many people will tractor beams it'll take to keep a cyclone from being able to drive forward. And more importantly, what would happen to all the people trying to hold it back if there wasn't enough to stop it? They'd get pulled with it. You've seen those things where you kind of drag yourself along. You would probably be dragged forward, or it would break the beam. Park a whole DE in orbit and do kinetic bombardment with tractor beams in the cargo. Your thoughts on the Endeavor changed, or are you still excited? I would say I'm still excited about the Endeavor. The Endeavor is one of those ships that I'm excited for, but I am patient. I also own a Banu Merchantman for reference, and a Corsair. So I have a lot of patience when it comes to those ships. What's this 400 eyes roll? We don't know. It's just a rumor at this point, guys. There's no hard evidence of it necessarily, and I even if there was, I couldn't talk about it. Tractor a ship through quantum. Well, I mean that's kind of what the what is it? There's an Argo ship that does that. The Argo SRV, I want to say maybe. That's its whole purpose. Is it tractors ships through quantum? No, I love the Corsair design. I don't like the wings, but I like the Corsair. I hate the Redeemer. I got a big fleet, but my fleet of the ones that I actually purchased and use is let's go through it. I've got a Dragonfly. I've got the UEE Exploration Pack, and I have a Dragonfly. I've upgraded one of the ships to Star Runner. I have upgraded one of the ships to a Cutlass Red. I upgraded one of the ships to a Freelancer Miss, and one of them to an Arside Perseus. That was just a consolidation because I had a bunch of other stuff I didn't really want. And then I also have a Freelancer Max LTI. I had one originally, and then I won one in a contest. So I just melted that as part of the pack. So I have a Corsair, which I purchased that I'm going to use, and that's it. I really think. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. Yep, that's it. I know that's it, but like Freelancer Miss, Freelancer Max, Cutlass Red, Dragonfly, Star Runner, and Perseus. Perseus is not going to be used very often. My Perseus is the Percy, which I'm going to name. What's a good name for Perseus? A Greek hero. You know what? I'm going to name it. Not even a Greek hero. I'm going to name it Diogenes. The Diogenes. Philosophy folks will get that joke. Thomas the Tank Engine. Falafel. Phoenix, maybe. Name it Doug. Doug the ship. Sledge. That's a good name for it. I'll have to think about it. I'll have to go through I'll ask my wife because she's the classics major, which is a good name for a hero. Shipping McShipface. They had a pirate base in a dense and dangerous nebula. Yeah. The Achilles is actually funny you say that, Desmond. The Achilles is an actual name of a Perseus. It's actually the Perseus that inspired the recent run of the Perseuses. I'm going to do a lore piece on it soon. So there'll be a museum piece that I've already started writing, which I'll probably finish tonight and then release next week, early next week, on the Perseus, because there's a lot of lore behind it, and then I'm going to tie some things in there. But the UEES Achilles was a ship that took on 3 Vanduul destroyers and won. It was beyond repair. It was essentially KO'd and wasn't salvageable. But it punched way above its weight class in a fight, in a major battle with the Vanduul, the Oberon campaign. When a man was a woman. Agamemnon. That's a good name. Agamemnon. Mikhail, I don't know what that name is. The Chunky Donkey. Percy McPerkface. Oh, the Leaky Odin. Yeah, maybe. The Leaky Odin. Are you going to try fitting a Perseus into the back of a Herc, since it, at least according to the website, could mostly fit inside of it? If you look over the pesky things like walls, and anyways, look at pure numbers. Funny, you can actually land a Perseus on the top deck of a Kraken. That's how small it is. It can fit on a Kraken. That's a nuts combination. You could, in theory, park multiple Perseuses inside the hangar bay of a Bengal carrier. You could have a Halo, what's the name of it? The Infinity? The Halo Infinity moment. If you guys don't know, at the very beginning of Halo 4, the Infinity jumps into a place where Master Chief is. This is an old game, so I'm not spoiling anything. And it actually has like multiple like Corvette-sized ships that are like docked with it, that undock and to support the ship as it goes in. So. Yeah, Ziku, I'll definitely be doing, I don't know if I'll do playthroughs, but I'll definitely collect footage with it for like the events and for the like corporations and stuff like that. My Cyberpunk 2077 lore videos will be mostly focused on the history, background story, and kind of how it affects the universe that you're in at that point. It's going to be less focused on like the stories or like, it's going to be mostly focused on like the deep lore rather than the current lore. I really want to see a large Vandal or other Xeno attack where the UE sends out a call for help to the system. That's 100% going to happen, Zebra. That's going to happen in the universe. That's something that CHE wants to do. So, if it was the version of the movie Battleship, more like the Leyte Gulf, the battle for Leyte Gulf, where a bunch of destroyer escorts and destroyers fought the entire Japanese Navy and won. I can't forget the name of the ship, but it was the ship that was the tin can battleships is what they called them, where these destroyer escorts and destroyers literally charged headlong into ships twice their size, and were able to sink or damage many of them. Well, most of them were destroyed, but were able to fight so hard that the Navy, that Yamamoto, I think it was Yamamoto, whoever the admiral was at the time, thought they were fighting the Navy, and it was like, nope, I can't risk the fleet in this battle. So that's Taffy 3, the Battle of Taffy 3. Thank you. That's the obvious influence of the Achilles is from that. And Fletcher destroyers, yeah. Star Citizen will all teach us all to fight the ship. Yeah. McCracken has a new reason to exist. Yeah. Park a Perseus on top of that. You've got yourself a strike fleet. Think about it. You take a Kraken and you have two Perseuses, one or maybe even three, and you have one that's on the deck, on the big deck of the Kraken for refit and repairs and servicing, while the other two fly support. Plus, you have fighter escorts that are coming out, so you have the Kraken becoming the center of a carrier fleet, of a mini carrier fleet right there. And while that sounds nuts, like that's not that many people. That's maybe 50 people doing something like that, because Perseus requires 5 to 6 people to operate. So that's 15 people for the Perseuses, say a good 10 fighters, so you have that's 25 people plus say 20 people, 30 people inside the Kraken running it. That's like 60, 70 people, which sounds like a lot. That's an entire server right now, but down the line, that's not too many people. Do you think the Perseuses being older in the UE fleet will have a huge emphasis on armor? Possibly, yes. It'll probably, because the Perseus was built before shields were used. I'll talk about that in my museum vid. But it was built before widespread use of shields were on smaller ships. In fact, most fighters didn't have shields until after the First Avaran War. So I imagine the Perseus is one of those ships that just wasn't big enough to support a shield generator, because the shields were for much larger ships. And so it was designed without shields in mind, with mostly armor. How many Picos fit inside an Avenger Titan? Is it Penguinception? God damn it. It's almost possible to land a Perseus on the Kraken. It is possible to land a Perseus on the Kraken. The top deck, the bigger top deck. You'd have to go between two of those the bigger ones that are supposedly a Cutlass, but it is. I personally think the Perseus should have been called the Longinus, as it looks like a spearhead. And the myth is... People would just say that's a penis, though. Volpine. They would just say, that's a penis. What they should have called it is like the Phalanx, or something like that. I already had Phalanx. That would be too confusing. The hoplites already been used. They could call it the Triarii, or the Triari, which is the third. Question: when are we going to get out of 3X and get into 4.0? They've said this before, but that's going to happen when they reach when they get server meshing. So 4.0 is going to be server meshing. Well, it's going to be when Pyro comes in, and Pyro's not coming in until server meshing is coming in. So buckle up; it's going to be a while. That's a full server right there. Yeah. What I'm talking about, like the Kraken's not coming out until we have server meshing. I still feel like the Polaris is much better value for the Perseus. It is, but the difference between the Perseus and the Polaris is that the Perseus is designed for smaller crews, so it won't require nearly as many people to run, whereas the Polaris effectively will need probably twice the crew count. And while that doesn't sound like much for people like myself, I would probably struggle to find 5 people to play with, let alone 10. And 10 people that I feel like I could reliably work with on a regular basis. So I've named my Perseus the Thunderclaw, the Thunderchild. I like that reference there, J-Mad. I like that reference. It's a nice War of the Worlds reference. The long night of Solus Halo was 27,000 meters. Yeah. A dreadnought in Star Citizen size would be such an insane combat zone. Yeah. Professor Aster, Gib Polaris. The RSI lore seems so deep. It's huge. Star Citizen's lore is deep, but RSI lore is massive because RSI has been around for 900 years in Star Citizen's history. Penis. Yes. Glad I got to laugh at you. Thanks for answering my question. This is the best third shift so far. I'm glad. Latin. Faccio. Corvette size killer. Here we go. Now I know this is a big stretch, but what are the changes to the Perseus fitting in challenges for Perseus fitting in Javelin? Javelin's landing bay is a raise up and lower, similar to the 890, and it's designed to fit a Vanguard. So say Vanguard, is that right? Yeah, Vanguard. It's designed to fit a Vanguard. So, and a Perseus is probably 2 Vanguards put together, maybe 3. 2.5, so it's way too long for it to fit in a Javelin. But the Kraken has those 2 areas which are designed for cutlasses, which are about the same size as a Vanguard. It's Cutlass and Vanguard sized, so you can you land it on top of it, stretching over those 2 landing pads. And the Star Citizen rule is, if it fits, it sits. As long as it sits in the zone. In the gravity well, as it were, then it ain't going anywhere. Let's look at the Vanguard size. It's 38 meters long, so about 40 meters long. So look at the Cutlass. Cutlass is 29 meters long. So if you have 2 Vanguards put together, that's about 70 something meters. I think you can fit a Perseus on top of a Kraken. It will hang out some, but I think you could probably put the landing gear in the gravity zones. The physics grid. Yeah, thank you, the physics grid. Fits it sits rule. Leonidas would be a good name. That'd be a good name. Probably wouldn't say Leonidas, though. I'll have to look it up. Maybe the Heracles, or the Pericles. The Pericles would be a good name for it. I could also call it the Scipio, but that's probably a name of a ship in Star Citizen 2. 3.3 cutlasses, yeah. Question, I know you're under NDA, but can you at least say if this next thing coming is coming is exciting or not? Here's the thing. I'm going to be upfront. I haven't played the ETF build because I've been busy with other things. So I haven't seen anything, but because it's an I'm under NDA, I don't know what's in the build, I couldn't tell you. So me talking about the leaks I could get sued and lose my reputation with CIG in terms of like good standing, and I don't want to do that. I don't think anyone at CIG who's even watching right now probably cares, but it's something that I as a professional, I want to continue with that relationship. So that's one of the reasons why I couldn't tell you if it's true or not, because I don't know. Morpheus would be a good name, yeah. Maybe the Damocles. Ooh, that'd be a good name for it. The Damocles. The Benadryl, it knocks you out. Oh, my Perseus. My RSI Perseus. Trying to think of good classical names. You're gonna have to get a ship sensor for names. How you doing, Elsinore? Call Ajax. Ajax, another good one. The Sword of Damocles. That's a better name for it. Though it's a little weird because the Sword of Damocles is a reference to, and I know it's a myth, but I know it's usually used as a term for a looming threat. It's a sword that will hurt the user, essentially. The Medusa. Like a lot of people have said Leonidas. I want something that's unique. A lot of people will probably use things like Leonidas. So I'm trying to think of my own classical information, my classical knowledge about the classical world, and names that would work with it. That's why I suggested the Scipio for the general Scipio Africanus who beat Hannibal. Round of beers. Let's get some round of beers up here. And Atlas Rowan, thank you so much for that Twitch Prime sub. You are a very important pupper, very impressive pisser, very needed pedestrian. You rock, my man. Shots and cheers in chat, guys. Shots and cheers. We'll just name every Greek name out there. What about Nero? I'd love that name. The Nero. The Chiron would be a good name for it. Blind Justice is the Sword of Damocles, or Impending Doom. Thank you. I knew it was like a reference to something, but yeah. The biggest dickus. Ooh, I got a good name for it. 2 names. The Agrippa. The Magnus. The Sulla, or the Cornelius. Or the Marius. Thanks for hanging out, Blackburn. The Caesar is a good name too, but I think that's also would be taken. Cyclops. Ooh, it's a good name too. Odin Sphere. Dungear. There we go. Is it biggest dick is referred for a javelin, or the first Bengal carrier that's salvaged? Ultimo Ratio. Call it Anubis with go with Egyptian. Oh yeah, I could do that too. The Horus. Oh, that's a good name. The Horus. 40k lore nerds would know why that is. Oofbert. You know what? I could call it, if we're gonna go with famous things and mythology, or not semi-mythological, not really semi-mythological. I know the name of it. I'm gonna call it the Canute. Canute is a very rare reference that people who understand Scandinavian history in the UK will get. But it's so freaking rare. I don't buy such heresy. The Canute. I think that's probably what I'm going to settle on. The Canute. The nut. Or the sea nut. This, Canute, or Sinut, I always say Canute. Canute was a Scandinavian king who controlled much of England, who conquered much of Anglo-Saxon England, and was eventually converted to Christianity. And when he died, I think he was defeated in battle by the first king of Anglo-Saxon England, the first unified king. Forgetting his name though. These nuts. Called the Say My Name. An O&I ship from ODST. I like that name too. Yeah, the Say My Name. Kadrian for that 31 months. I love the new lore content. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you, Kadrian. Let's get some more views, some more beers in chat. I like that. Or I could also call it the Durandal. The Durandal is a good one too. That's one of the swords of Charlemagne. That actually sounds really good. I'll probably go with Durandal. That's a good solid mythological name. Beers in chat. I know England had 1 million kings. That's why I'm blanking on his name. For those of you who don't know about English history, Anglo-Saxon England had 12 regions, which are still the regions that exist today, like Saxony, or not Saxony, that's France. But a lot of the regions that exist in England today are actually remnants of the old Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, the counties, Essex, Sussex, Wessex, and the Danelaw. Yeah, that was Canute. He was the king of the Danelaw. Called the drunken gunman. You really think you'll be able to park a Perseus on a Kraken? I think you can fit it. I think it would work. Targaryen. Sussex, yeah. Northumbria. Yeah. These are all the old Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, which were eventually united under the fuck, I can't remember his name. The Bird's Nest, ooh, yeah. It totally fits. I told you. Murica, the Cornwall, yeah. I went to England to school in England as a boy, and boy was it hard to keep up every name. Have 10 different kings. It would go to say Henry VIII, yeah. Alfred, thank you, Eparchy. That's what it was. It was Alfred the Great, who was the one who was able to unify England. And he didn't really unify all of England, but he beat Canute and made peace with the Danelaw before eventually conquering it. I had a lot of English history. I read a lot of Bede in college. Took more than a few classes where Bede saved my ass. So, Alfred the Great, yeah. Reversing the N and the U. Yeah, don't reverse the N and the U. His name is literally, I'll type it in chat. His name is literally this. That is literally his name. Look him up. I don't remember if he has a title, but he was Canute of the Danelaw. The bartender's 12 gauge. Talk about the Alfred and Anglo-Saxons Assassin's Creed Valhalla goes deep into it. I assume that, yeah. I assume that people would know more about it now because of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which talks a lot about that time period, about the Danelaw and the conflict between the Anglo-Saxons and the Scandinavians. Mostly Norwegians, some Danish. Call it the Musashi. It's too small of a ship to be called the Musashi. There's no way I'm calling a corvette, a gunboat, the Musashi. They'd be like calling a tugboat the Bismarck. It's not gonna happen. That was a good name. Wait, what did you call me? Is Valhalla PC or console only? It's both. It's PC and console. That's when Journeys to the Stars. That would work. Yeah. I looked at the USNC Infinity and had 10 Strident-class heavy frigates in the Ventral Bay. I want that for the Pegasus, the Perseus. Exactly, yeah. Like, the Infinity holds essentially 10 Perseuses in its back. Actually, it holds like 10... it would hold something to the equivalent of like 10 not javelins, Idrises or Polarises in its back. The Argo is a good Corvette name, but overused, yeah. Oh, it definitely looks like it, but it's tiny. I think I'm going to go with is Canute also the great Canute the Great? Yeah. I think I'm going to go with Durandal. Let me guys link you guys to Durandal. Durandal, or Durandal, is the sword Roland, legendary paladin of Charlemagne, in the French epic literature. It is also said to have belonged to young Charlemagne at one point, and passing it through Saracen hands, came to be owned by Roland. The sword has been given various provinces. Several works of the Matter of France agree that it was forged by Wayland the Smith, who is commonly cited as the maker of weapons in chivalric romances. It is equivalent. The Durandal is the equivalent of Durandal and its sister sword, which is named Cortana, were famous for Charlemagne, in Tales of Charlemagne. But it's the equivalent of Excalibur, really. It's at the same level as that in terms of the old myths. Durandal. Durandal. It sounds like a sword in Witcher 3. I don't doubt it. That's also kind of that's kind of why I wanted to do it, because it's a historical reference, and a lot of people will be like, "Why did you name your ship the C word?" It's like, I didn't. It's Canute. It's Canute. Canute the Great. Oh, TG, because I was talking about what to name my Perseus. We've been talking about it for like 30 minutes. Is the Jack Russell of capital ships? Yeah. Guy Blug? Guy Blug? Look that up. Spear of Mortal Pain. It looks like lightning. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Mjolnir? Mjolnir would be a good name for it, too. The Latin for I now send you to hell. Oh. Interesting. Nunc mite gennem. Yeah. No, like for instance, let me tell you the name of my the name of my Drake Corsair is the Ryoma, named after a famous samurai who is one of the fathers of the modern Japanese Navy. He's also he was a advocate for democracy in feudal Japan, and was famous for being a rebel in Japanese history. He was a minor samurai who had a major impact on the country even today. He's in some ways is considered as part of he's like the father of Japanese democracy, you know. So I figured that was a fitting name for a ship that's designed to kick in teeth and is designed by a company that's very, very emphasizing freedom. So the Edgelord. Charles Martel, the Hammer. Charles Martel, Aparky, the Hammer. Such a fucking badass name. He's not a king. He's not an emperor. He's the Hammer. He was a minor samurai, and he actually bucked a lot of traditions and broke a lot of laws because he actually traveled outside of the district he was born in. To work some other places, so. Because that's all trade ships are. Ouch. Hey, our Cardigo, how you doing, buddy? T-Bone. The Big Lebowski. Gray Skull. I love these names. Guys, I'm gonna probably have to call it a night. It's like, I'd love to sit here and talk with you, but the video is already going to be like 2.5 hours long, and a lot of it is just us talking about names from my Perseus. Thank you guys for watching us. If you guys enjoyed this, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on Twitch, please hit that follow button. It means a lot to me. We'll be back tomorrow with group gameplay. I'll try to grab people together, and we'll do some crazy nonsense. We'll see what we can do. I have yet to decide what we're going to do, but I like Fridays. I use get big groups together of streamers and average Joes and do races or other things like that. So, risk my life to get the mail out of my mailbox. Yeah, and then on Saturdays we do our tabletop RPGs early in the morning at about 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT, or 6 p.m. British time. And then directly after that we have our Captain's Table, which I still have yet. I've got one person. I need to get another person for this week. I'm trying to make December all new people, but I'm having trouble with that right now, so we'll figure it out. Let's see. Sundays we do our Zero to Hero, which is much more focused on kind of me playing the game with a starter package and showing you guys how to kind of make money. And just doing the kind of starter pack life. And then Monday we're actually going to do our first non-Star Citizen stream in a while, which is a painting stream that I'm going to be doing with another Star Citizen content creator from the Info Runners, where we're going to both be painting stuff that on our own and kind of hanging out and talking. So, and before I go, let me show you. Give you an idea of the painting that I've been doing. I do a lot of Warhammer painting. I've gotten back into it, the hobby. The autofocus is kind of weird, but the green is too much like a green screen. That's green. There we go. This is stuff I've been doing recently. Get this to focus right. There we go. So we'll be doing that kind of stuff. Nice. Now to get some more ink work on there and dry brushing. I've done a little bit of dry brushing on these guys for highlights, but you know, they look fine. You know, I'm not going nuts with it yet. They have been shaded though. So that's the plan. We're going to be hanging out, painting some stuff together and that kind of thing. So, happy little bolter. It's okay. We don't make mistakes. We don't make mistakes. We make heretics. Is that a Space Wolf? Yes, Ferric. I have the Marines that I'm collecting right now, all Primaris because they're easier to paint and because I like it, are going to be a Space Wolf successor chapter, custom one that I've been working on. So I've got Blade Guard veterans, which are coming in the mail soon, and I've got a Primaris lieutenant with a power sword, pistol, and a what is it called? Storm shield in there as well. So it's going to be a mixture of like long range stealth bolter fire and up in your face sword swinging action is what is the that I've been building for it. So Leroy Jenkins is a great name. So yeah, so that's oh, thank you, Cyberwolf. Thank you for telling me my early stuff was meh. But yeah, that's the plan is to do that on Monday. So we'll definitely kind of that kind of stuff. We'll be, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the near future. Love your faces. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And like I say every time, hope to see you guys again soon. But if I don't, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, Ex Historia ad Astra.